Yeah. For, I'm gonna. It's not going to be very in an order. I'm just reacting to. I mean, the presentation has been very rich, so I've been noting a few things and just. On the global framing, I think it's very good to be really solutions oriented, and I see a little discrepancy between this aim and the structure of the workshops. I fear a little that the workshops end as discussions more than solutions exposed. So I'm just, I think it's, if we want to keep these really solutions oriented, I think it's interesting that this appears clearly in the framing of the workshops. And I don't know, maybe I was busy somewhere else, but I didn't see even the world solutions in the workshops. So I'm in the framing of the workshops. So gender, etc. This is many things are. I mean, you aim many purposes, but to be really solutions oriented would be, I think, a good guideline for the workshops. Otherwise, yeah. Otherwise, it's going to be discussions, and I think that's not what Anne Paula has been saying from her side. And we would very much meet this goal globally, because I think that this meeting, this forum, is very good as an answer of the, let's say, ecosystem to the Declaration Chaillot and to the forum that was, and ICBC that was more political. I think it's important that political stays political, and this answer stays as, well, we stand here to implement, and then implementation is solutions. So I don't know exactly what you mean by call to action, but I would be cautious on issuing other calls, or if it is to really implement the Declaration Chaillot. I think we have a global framework with the Declaration Chaillot, which is quite. So this is well. I think this is on the global framing and narrative of. I think it's. Well, that's globally what I wanted to say. On more, of course, technical things, I just want to say that we are discussing with CDRI, as you know, and as you are touching the question of infrastructure and resilience, I think, and they postponed their meeting in their General Assembly or whatever. So I think it's a very good opportunity to link with them at this moment. We also, well, but other things are more like details and things like that. I just wanted to say that, and that, of course, financial solutions are very important at this point. And if possible, in the slides, I see there's an effort to talk about EMDEs rather than Global South. Well, if possible, to avoid the Global South and Global North, which we do not see things this way. That would be more comfortable for us. Of course, in the Global South tends to agglomerate some very different situations, and well, that's okay. That's all for the moment. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Yves Laurent. Yosha?
Yeah, hello, colleagues. Happy New Year. First of all, apologies, Jonathan. I didn't manage to respond to your survey, even though I have something to say. I will do it. So please bear with me. It was we have some changes in the program, so But well, first, maybe I want to maybe echo what Yves Laurent just said. For me, it's not clear what this call for action mean, actually. And what does this imply for I don't know, our government partners in developing countries. I mean, are they asked to sign something, or so kind of the institutional implications behind this would be great to clarify, and maybe reconsider also the wording, because it might be misleading. Yeah. What we have discussed earlier, and what I would like to also put into this round, is if we could consider a separate and additional workshop specifically on gender in buildings, and not only treat it as a cross-cutting issue. You know, at PEEP we are working on that topic, and I think there's potentially appetite to do something also at this summit. And we would be happy to be partner in crime in developing this. Then from the Finance Hub, and I checked in with Omid before the session, actually before Christmas already. I mean, we understand that you consider finance as a cross-cutting topic, but we fear that kind of it will not be very prominently discussed in these concepts. Or in the setup. So first of all, we would like to offer to whoever picks a co-lead for these sessions to consult with the co-chairs of the Finance Hub, so we can lead them to initiatives that might relate. So we make sure that finance is considered by practitioners in every session, and we can facilitate this connection. Yeah, even though we don't want to engage in co-leading all of these sessions, if you know what I mean, because this would be too much for us. Yeah, but happy to facilitate the context. Apart from this, maybe also to see whether we can consider somehow a setup in which we can discuss the topics that we are currently working on in the Finance Hub separately. I don't know if there's let's say hub sessions foreseen where we can meet with the hub members. I don't know, at the third day or whatever, so it kind of is in parallel or after. And I just want to put out the topics that we think would be relevant. The first one is climate finance for the building sector, and innovative finance mechanisms, including carbon market, tapping into carbon markets. As you know, that we have been working on Article 6, etc. The second one relates to the action agenda of COP30, where we have this plan to accelerate solution by developing capacities of national development banks to finance green buildings, which is something where from the Global ABC Finance Hub side, we will be linking up with the Finance and Commons Summit working group on energy transition. And this is taking, let's say, shape basically over the next month, and it would be a nice opportunity to also bring it to the Lausanne workshop. And then something that I saw on the list is on resilience and adaptation, so making also insurance companies work for the building transition. So that would be something where at least IFC would be interested in promoting this. So not sure if this is a separate one or one of the sessions that you have put out would fit to include this. Yeah. On the sessions itself, you know, of the 10 I think that you presented, and I will put this in an email too. For us, it would be interesting to join the co-lead of the affordable housing in the Global South, renovation and refurbishment, and the governance. So in these three, we would be interested in participating. Yeah.
Thank you, Joscha. Ankita?
Yeah, thanks everyone. Morning, Happy New Year. Thank you, Jonathan, for that very clear presentation. My name is Ankita Gangotra. I'm at UNIDO. I coordinate the Industrial Decarbonization Initiative, and I'm also coordinating UNIDO's sort of inputs and participation at the summit. I just had a few sort of operational questions. One being, is there still time to submit EOIs? I know that we've got a few teams who might be interested, especially on the green public procurement side of things, as well as on the city's angle. And is there still time to submit expressions of interest to lead, co-lead, or even participate? And how are you all doing the matchmaking? Because I heard you say that you might reach out to organizations who might not have expressed interest yet, but we've also been in conversations with partners. Are you expecting us to come together with a proposal or towards the EOI, or are you expecting individual proposals and then you'll pair folks up? Because of course, for green public and private procurement, for example, though, I'm sure there are very many organizations already interested. So just wanted to ask how you all are organizing all of us. And then the other thing was, yes, some clarity on the call to action side of things. I'm hearing loud and clear that this is not a political, high-level political type of summit, and it's about practitioners and implementation. So yeah, what does the call to action look like really? And also on the city's angle and day 3 activities, I might have missed that, but some clarity on that would be good. And also overall, will you be sharing the recording so I can, because a few folks couldn't attend and won't be able to attend the information sessions today, but I'd like to share the recording if possible. Thanks.
Thank you, Ankita. Next, I have Tobias.
Yeah, thanks for taking the time with us and the deep dives and explanation. Highly appreciated. So from our side also, there are some interesting topics from Siemens on AI for the built environment, as well as for sure renovation, modernization, or circularity. What I'm wondering is, okay, this goes in the direction of Ankita's question. How are you going to make your choice from an operational perspective? How can we, let's say, so give some input on how to, what the content of those sessions could be about, and how are you going to make the decision who's going to lead and co-lead and to participate? That would be a more operational question from my side.
Thank you, Tobias. Well noted. Next, I have Nabila. Or am I?
Sorry.
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry,
sorry.
I skipped.
I didn't realize it worked, the the hand raising. But yeah, I just wanted to ask more on the logistical side, but I didn't actually submit the survey that you put out because I thought it was too late. But is it possible to still submit an EOI for the workshops, or how does it work going forward? Thank you.
Thank you. Well noted. So, Hub, please.
Yes, no problem. It's a busy day already. Just a question on the affordable housing topic. I think you actually referred to the Global South, or I should use the other term, of course, but living in Europe, there's this affordable housing plan, and being part of CIB, I know similar ideas are popping up in Australia, India, Singapore, South Africa. So would it be an opportunity to actually link the affordable housing plan of Europe with the other continents and really attempt to learn from each other?
Yes. Okay. I'll respond to that, but I think we are aligned. Isaka. Isaka, I can't hear you. Yeah, I don't know why. Looks like there's a microphone issue. Maybe I ask Riyad to go in the meantime, and Isaka, I let you check your settings. Maybe it's around that. Riyad, please.
Right. Yeah. Good morning, colleagues. Yeah, thank you for the invite and for this round. Actually, yeah, and thank you for actually listening to us. So I also appreciate your interactive approach because actually I need to admit the Paris event was great, but always front-loaded with a lot of presentations and lengthy panel sessions can be boring for 2 days. So therefore, definitely I appreciate this interactive approach. And actually, definitely I would like to contribute with the projects that we are and programs we are running mainly in the MENA region, and we have a lot of different topics that we can contribute to and can present case studies. And I'm also wondering also a little bit jumping on the topic that Eve has brought up. What will be or what is planned with the results of the project, so to say, of the workshop? What is the messaging, so to say, and how will that be kind of captured and also disseminated? So it might make sense to have really a clear idea of the outputs and how we will deal with them. So really having a strong fact-based messages elaborated, maybe regionalized or localized, that would be really beneficial probably for the community. And yeah, happy to contribute definitely.
Thank you, Riyad. And we lost Misaka. He might come back later. Thanks. So we have a number of things to respond to. And maybe we can start with the call for actions. Just maybe this is maybe it's just about getting the title different. So we're not looking at sort of coming up with a new sort of declaration or whatever that some countries will be behind. The idea was more to have in that context some experts that basically will sort of, these are plenary session where we will have some experts from EPFL and some other experts coming together to really talk about, from a global perspective, from, what are sort of the important things to engage in, what they see as some of the trends where we're going. So that's sort of the idea. So we're not coming up with new calls for action, and maybe we need to sort of review how we write that, Anne. But and maybe you can add a bit from your perspective, because I know this is something that you've been discussing also with the professors at EPFL. So maybe I'll let you come in also.
It's not a call for action. It's more we look at the topic from a high level and what is the urgency, which means that we try to look at the 80-20 rules. What can we act now to really solve the 80% of the issues right now? And the call for action is how to bring actionable measures now to tackle the 80% very quickly. That was more the idea behind. It's really like in high level, what can we do now in order to really tackle the big blocks? That was more the intention behind. But it's true, the call for action is not the right wording. We have to change that. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne. And we'll respond to the other questions after I ask Misaka what he wanted to add to the conversation.
Thanks, Jonathan. Hope am I audible now?
You are.
Perfect. Thanks. Thanks for the great presentation. It's very clear. I just want to quickly check about the disaster resilience and preparedness dimension. I actually sort of raised it in the survey as well. Things like post-disaster reconstruction and material for reconstruction, as well as many. I know some design-related concerns of resilience to or preparedness for extreme events is covered in I think workshop 2 or something. But the potential risks that can be generated by the building industry itself. I'm just wondering, like, whether you plan to sort of incorporate them into different workshops under the existing themes, or is it something that probably not thought of as a priority in this goal?
I'll put it aside and respond to you, and then I'm going to take Mel's question, and then I think we have to run through all the questions we have to give answers, because we will have another 30 minutes. Mel, please.
Yeah, hi, thanks. Apologies, it's been asked to step out for a bit. Thanks for presenting this. It looks really interactive and engaging, and I think it's going to be a great place in Lausanne with all the resources you've put together to make it a great day. So I'm looking forward to it. One question I have is around, it's linking back up to what Eve's question was a little bit at the beginning, but linking it to the calls for action that we kind of endorsed or acknowledged in November. And if there's any way of tying those in and looking at the implementation of them, because we had lots of governments saying we want to do these things, but the challenge now is in implementing them. And if this is completely dissociated from that, then it means that when we get to the next ICBC, we won't have had any time to discuss what countries are doing or how we can implement them. And it might just, yeah. So I think it would be really helpful to just, even though this is a implementation focused meeting and not a high level political one, but to have potentially associated calls for action. And that way also it limits, it takes whichever ones were the one that was presented last year. It says these are what the calls for action were, and we just work on those. And then maybe next year we think about other ones. So it limits the proliferation as well of calls for action.
Thank you, Mel. Okay, let me come back to that also. I'll just try to take everything a bit in order, but so Yves Laurent, global framing, solutions oriented. I think that's the idea. Maybe we need to make it a little bit stronger. I mean, I do think by the fact of bringing a number, I mean, for example, Riyadh this year was mentioning about the work that they've been doing in the Arab region and the Middle East, and a lot of work on cooling, a lot of solutions put forward, a lot of things that have worked with the country. So it's more about actually talking about in the workshops on the solution and bringing some of those case studies and best practices and lessons forward to show that these are things that can actually, that work, that didn't work. These are things that can possibly be models or can be possibly replicated in other areas to actually move to the implementation. So bring some of the solutions to overcome some of the barriers. Then the idea, of course, is also to have the people in the room that are working on projects and also from the country's perspective also get sort of they can be part of those actually putting forward some of the solutions that work for them, but also to sort of really indicate, okay, what are some of the major issues that they're encountering when they're actually even in some cases implementing these projects, and how can we sort of respond to that. So I do think the idea is really to go towards implementations and solutions, and ideally we would like to come out of those workshops with some very sort of clear solutions identified. I mean, there's not one size fits all, we all know that, but at least there are things that we can do that set sort of approaches that work well that can be adapted in different countries. And so it's more about that, like what we've been doing for quite some time already in the roadmap coordination group. We basically brought everybody together working on roadmaps, discussed about what worked in the countries, what didn't work, and tried to come up with like, okay, what is the ideal process and approach that we can do to do it in a successful and in a good way. So it's going towards sort of those aspects of implementation. So yeah, I think it's also going to be part again, we are a small group of people here that started sort of thinking and bringing things together. We need the brains of everyone. And that's where I think, once the leads and co-leads are sort of in the seat, they are the ones who actually need to also think about that framing and how they do it in the context of the workshops and interact, like Yosha was saying, with the projects, with the relevant hubs and action groups that we have to ensure that, the topics are being covered. So there should be a process where, a selected group, I would say, of people that, would be consulted in the process of shaping each of the workshops and making suggestions about some of the solutions and case studies that can be put forward and some of the key questions that need to be asked and can be part of, some of those breakout groups if we want. I don't know exactly whether that's the best solution. So, still very open also in terms of people coming with some of their ideas and how they have managed, in some other workshops on how we can structure those things. So we came with a bit of an idea. Theoretical ideas are always wonderful. Making them in practice is not always easy. So, I count also, of course, on the brains, the brain power of all our colleagues here to, help us bring it in the right direction, I would say. So, yeah, and Yosha, you were mentioning, and Yves Laurent also mentioned the importance of the finance solution. So I definitely think that, finance is something, or, we know that, okay, it's not only always about finance, but in the end, it is a lot about the finance needs to be there for the things to happen. So the finance is very critical sort of element that needs to be discussed when we discuss housing, when we discuss resilience, when we discuss refurbishment, and possibly also all the other topics. So I do think that it's about, coming up with some of the right questions or structure around the finance topic in each of the sessions, possibly. And then, Yosha, you were mentioning, okay, is there an opportunity to have, side meetings, maybe of the hubs or the action groups, or, I think this we definitely can organize in the sense that we have the space for it. So, I mean, in the venue, we have a lot of smaller meeting rooms that can also be possibly used. So, of course, there is the full program of the day. Everybody's going to be very busy, but hopefully we can, put some smaller meetings at the end of the day. And then we specifically have the last day where we have the whole afternoon more to do a number of project meetings, ICBC meeting, other things that we're planning. So that's how we look at it for the moment. And of course, we get, I think people are very much welcome to, like I even said earlier, someone is bringing, their 3 countries that they're working with. They want to have their own little meeting in a room and do a sort of even a steering committee meeting or whatever sort of meeting. I think we can find ways to facilitate some of those because we have a number of smaller rooms specifically. And then we have those very large rooms that can be divided in several rooms. So there is potential to do those things. Yeah, and I mean, Yves Laurent, you were mentioning CDRI. I mean, like also thinking about GIB. I mean, there are a number of actors that have, and Yosha, you were mentioning earlier also that you didn't have the time bandwidth to sort of respond to the survey, which I totally understand. It came after COP. It came before the holidays, so I knew that a number of people would not be able to sort of respond. So that's why. Our intention is to sort of make sure that we copy the people, beyond the ones that responded on the topics where we think that they should be engaged or should be, possibly engaging it. So that's sort of our next step. Many people have, or a few people at least have asked, is there still room to sort of provide inputs in the AOI? I would say if you do it very, very quickly, or you send us an email, but I think maybe it's good if you have some specific things and you didn't have the time. I think we can still take in some of the point suggestions, especially to match you with maybe the groups. So I mean, one thing is that we saw in the respondents of the survey, we saw people also ticking boxes of several areas that they're interested in. I guess that's great, but I guess especially when some people said, "Oh, I'm interested to co-lead," and then tick 5 boxes. It's like I don't think you can co-lead 5 workshops. So I think we will sort of do a preliminary sort of suggestion selection of who we think is well placed to sort of lead some of those workshops, and then we organize a group call where we might sort of first get an agreement and feedback from those that we potentially invited to be the leads, and maybe a feedback from overall group that is interested in engaging in each of the specific workshops. So that would be sort of our next step here for this. Yosha, I don't know if you want to quickly react to that. If so, then maybe it's better to take it now.
Okay, it will be very quick. Thanks, Jonathan. So I'm now speaking, let's say, as my, role as co-lead of the Finance Hub. And it's just a question, about what you explained. I mean, in the hubs, we have our work plans and processes, etc., and we have very little opportunities to meet in person, right? To advance on that. And obviously, the Global ABC annual meetings are always a place where we can meet and advance and have workshops. So what I haven't seen so far is the spaces where the hubs with their genuine work processes meet. Because what you proposed here, these are not in line with our process, which is totally fine. but we don't have a space to discuss, let's say, what drives us at Global C at the hubs so far. I understand that the only way to do it would be on the third day in the afternoon, which apparently would also be crowded because there are many other things, and people would come up with meetings here and there. Some people would leave. So the question is this the intention to kind of push the work of the Global ABC hubs towards the end, a little bit to the side, in my point of view, and not, let's say, capitalizing sufficiently on the possibility to meet there.
Thanks, Joscha. So, I mean, this is not like the usual sort of global ABC assembly. No, I mean, it's a bit like, okay, I remember when we were doing the forum in Paris, I was told, okay, let's do a global ABC assembly at the same time. Well, it's sort of impossible to do it because everybody's engaged into different workshops. And, it would mean like having a specific additional day where we do something really specific around the global ABC. Resources do not really permit that. This is an event that, basically EPFL has put significant financing on the table to take forward and propose to us to do this together. So it is not like, I would say, it's still, the whole community comes together and the opportunity is there that the whole community is there, and people should take advantage of the fact that the whole community is there. But, we're not putting the usual sort of global ABC as part of the overall agenda because we want to be beyond. We're looking beyond basically the global ABC. I think there will be spaces, in the like, okay. It can be fine in my view, and maybe Anne might say that she might not agree to that, but in my view, in the evenings, like, when we finish the workshops and, the plenary session, we have at the moment scheduled to end around 5 p.m. with that. And then there's from 5 to 6 some pitches from the university and maybe from projects and all that. But maybe smaller groups can take advantage of that moment, to have a room on the side where they can go and have like, okay, I have a meeting with all my friends from the materials hub, from the finance hub, from whichever hub, to sort of discuss more on strategy and spend at least an hour or even more if people have the motivation to do that. The last day, I agree with you. We don't know yet how many things will happen. And again, it's always a bit complicated, because at some point we're saying, okay, we do a global ABC sort of assembly moment on the last day in the afternoon. But if we also want to organize a meeting of the technical people of the Intergovernmental Council for Buildings and Climate, well, then we cannot really make a global ABC meeting at the same time, because it's the same people also that are part of, the global ABC. So, yeah, so I think we're prioritizing more sort of like, well, first of all, the summit being sort of looking at the solutions, very much with, I think, what Yves Laurent said about, okay, there are all these larger commitments. What does it mean really in terms of implementation and in terms of solutions, and how do we sort of bring it forward for the solution? So that's at least the spirit. Yeah.
Good. Well, that's totally fine. I think it's more than a question of, of the leads of the hubs to take, what you just framed into consideration, and not think of, this summit as one big stepping stone to advance the agenda of the work streams in the hubs, but rather, let's say, organize our work around this, no?
Yeah, and so, but still, I would say, Joscha, one of the objectives is also to really, at least so as much as possible, to sort of bring practitioners together, and that they sort of also talk really about their issues. And these are topics, I think, in a sense that we as the Global ABC can, take into account and possibly pick up in some of our hubs and action groups beyond that. No, so I do hope that the workshops actually help feeding also, the hubs with some of the things that on the finance side, these really things came up in addition to what we have already been thinking, and that we actually might want to look into how we sort of also respond to that, or what we can do as sort of at the global level to sort of respond to that. So I'm still like looking at overall of this summit to really help us with like, okay, how do we sort of bring our focus towards the implementation in the work of the global ABC? So that's if that sort of, yeah. So I hope it's still valuable, or like will be valuable for the hubs and the action groups going forward. Yves Laurent, I quickly take your reaction because I see you have your hand raised, and then I really need to respond to all the questions.
Well, I don't know if you want to answer to other questions before my reaction. I'm very surprised to hear that there will not be Global ABC General Assembly at Lausanne. Is that what you were saying, or?
I think it's not possible, Yves Laurent, to organize that in parallel with all the workshops. So I mean, the community comes together, everybody is going to be there. But I do think that, you know, if we're organizing the ICBC meeting on the last day, there are, you know, a number of other initiatives that have expressed interest to use the last day, and many of them are Global ABC members. So if they go into a number of because people are coming, and some of them are coming with their own resources, are going to bring some people from their projects. So we want to give them the opportunity to use that moment also for their projects and for them, because it's, I would say, in a way, supporting the success of the summit and bringing the people also to Lausanne. So, I mean, we can have another discussion on that, Yves Laurent, but, you know, that's sort of, I think, you know, the community is still coming together. So, I mean, in a way, you remember with the forum, we also didn't do a global ABC assembly. What we did was one steering committee meeting. I still want to make sure we can do a steering committee meeting, but I don't think we can take it as a full assembly because, you know, the community is going to be there together in any case. The interactions can take place. The hubs can have some of their works. We are looking probably at the technical coordination group meeting also between the hubs possibly, but a full-fledged sort of assembly, you know, I think that would be difficult to fit in. So that's, you know, we're working in the constraints that we have, I guess.
Okay, well, we definitely need to have a conversation about that, but that's not the moment, probably. Okay, thank you.
Good. Okay. Yeah. José, you mentioned also about, you know, banks, insurance companies and all that. So we also have our colleagues from the UNEP FI also with whom we are in interaction. I know that Anne is also looking at bringing Swiss reassurance. So we're looking also at making sure we actually bring those type of actors also in the process. So yeah, still sort of part of the discussions in terms of engaging some of the partners, but we have not overlooked that part, I would say. And I noted your interest in, you know, a few of the specific sessions. So in any case, I will also copy you also from your PEEP hat, you know, into this. And Ankita, I think I responded to, you know, the expression of interest. I mean, you can or share by email. Maybe that's even easier at this stage than actually going into the expression of interest form. So I think anybody who wants to still sort of shoot some things at us that we need to think of and try to take into account. I'm not promising we can take everything into account, but it's still the moment to do so. But it should be at the next week, you know, latest. It needs to come or like early next week latest, ideally even tomorrow, I would say. So yeah, that's what I would say. I mean, yeah, I'm not sure whether I responded earlier, but, you know, okay, how do we sort of identify the co-leads and how do we sort of make the people working together? So, I mean, for the moment, we've been looking more at who expressed interest, you know, in which topics. And then, of course, we have our own sort of knowledge about our community and who we really think are important actors in the different areas. So that's how I think we will sort of come with a group email, or at least, like, you know, to the ones that we think need to sit around the table for these topics. And then, you know, there will have to be, we of course will take into account the ones that responded to the survey with their interest to lead co-lead. So we will sort of invite that, but we're also looking at other organizations that didn't and that we know would be really important partners into it. So I think the next step is to sort of have those calls between a sort of more limited group around each of the topics to sort of settle that question in a discussion on who really leads. I mean, maybe we make suggestions, but I guess it's not only for us to decide. And then, you know, how they want to structure in terms of having also, I would say, a sort of working group, advisory group, or whatever we call it, that helps preparing and shaping it. So that's for the moment how we are looking at it. Yeah, So Tobias, I think that sort of answered a bit to your question also. I mean, but yeah, so just
Yes, thank
we
you.
will also make sure that in
Definitely.
those groups, of course, our key private sector partners are well presented. And if there are specific areas that you feel like after this call you want to drop a message to us saying like these really important for me, I will make sure that you are copied in the messages for those specific sessions. Yeah. Oh, and Hub, you mentioned about the work of, well, okay, we're focusing on emerging and developing economies in the sense that's where we want to focus, because we say like, okay, the majority of construction is going to happen there. If we miss the boat, they will construct the way we've been doing it for quite some time. How can we really sort of accelerate the change there? That doesn't mean that the work that we're doing in Europe, in other areas of the world, is not important to bring forward as potential sort of approaches, models that can serve to accelerate the action on the side of the emerging and developing economies. So very important to sort of make the link between the two. But sort of in terms of where we're looking, in terms of where we want the action and where we want to sort of see acceleration, we think it's at least we think that that's where we need to sort of provide our support going forward so that it goes faster in those countries, because a lot is already happening independently of what the global ABC does on these topics in Europe. And it's not where maybe, I mean, there is a lot of expertise and support already happening in many ways. So, but definitely important to bring sort of that experience and see what can sort of be, taken from that for I would say, the other countries that can learn and from this. So
Thanks.
I mean, I think I sort of mentioned, the outputs, okay, maybe it's still not very shaped clearly enough because, it's again, theory, ideas, and then, actually I appreciate if some people have idea on how to frame that better, but you sort of understand the philosophy. I mean, for us, it's what Anne was mentioning about the 80-20. What is it today that are sort of the low-hanging fruits that are already working and that actually, in reality, they can already be implemented. Why are they not implemented? What is missing for this to happen? So I think that's sort of the thinking. And if we can come up with those sort of areas and what they are and what are the bottlenecks, so that's hopefully what we get out of it, and then it helps us sort of thinking about where we want to focus more the work going forward for better supporting implementation. Misaka, your point about disaster, and I think in this world today, it's probably really important to not overlook reconstruction for many reasons, whether it's like natural hazards or whether it's like wars going on everywhere. So yeah, definitely a very important topic. I think I open to sort of think, I mean, I initially thinking more that it would be part of sort of the adaptation resilience agenda. But, in a way, maybe even we should think about housing in some cases, or like, how do you move more for like, temporary shelters to maybe sort of more permanent? Some of those ideas I think would be important to be discussed in these topics also. So yeah, I definitely doesn't need to be overlooked. And Mel, on your point, how do we sort of link with what was sort of agreed and under the ICBC? So I think we have sort of a few processes going on that. I mean, we have our own processes on what we want to potentially do next, taking forward, actually going into some of the key countries that have endorsed some of the products and work directly in the countries with them to do some consultation and discuss on how we can support the implementation, what they are already doing. So that's going to be sort of a next step that is outside of this conference. But we should definitely also look on how some of those elements can be discussed under the different workshops, I think. So I think that depends also a bit on the leads of some of those work that actually can bring it. On the housing, of course, it's pretty straightforward. Mel, I know you are quite a bit with the whole life carbon, I think that sort of, fits well also with all the discussions about circularity, but also the ones that are talking about data. So I think there are sessions where, some of those things can really be put forward. And then the procurement, there's a specific session. So that one will be pretty straightforward. And then if we think about, okay, other areas, I think most of them we can sort of fit them in. But I think, so I think we should use the workshops as much as possible to sort of bring those into the discussion. And again, that's where my thinking is like, okay, these are discussion places. We want people to sort of voice their thing. So it's not only about voicing it now in terms of how do we integrate it, it's actually sitting also in those workshops and be able to bring up, some of those things in the discussions as important elements to frame or to take the work forward. So that's how, at least in theory, again, I see it. I think I answered to all the questions. We have another 9-10 minutes. Happy to hear some additional reactions or additional points that want to raise, or Anne, if you want to come in, because I did a lot of speaking, but you're most welcome to add if there's anything or any message you want to provide also from your side.
No, you were very clear. Great.
I do not see any other hands raised. I mean, maybe a few small things that I don't know if we mentioned them earlier, but I know that with Roland and WBCSD, we're looking at some sort of private sector panel or specific discussion also, how the private sector supports in the plenary session. And then, as I mentioned, I think I mentioned earlier that we're also looking at having something really around the subnationals. We are, as UNEP, actually going to bring a number of cities from emerging, developing economies that will be coming around the table. So we're finishing a few minutes earlier, which is always appreciated. I hope it was helpful. I know there might still be a lot of questions and things, but I count on all of you to help us because it's again we can come up with ideas, but I think it's really like the effort of us as a group to make this a success. So I appreciate all of you being here and look forward to continue working with you over the coming weeks, months. And just for those that might have accepted 2 meetings today, they are the same meetings. So just to say, we were just making sure that we have the people that have a bit of flexibility. So those that are not available in the morning can come in the afternoon. Those that are available in the morning prefer the morning slot. So if you said yes to the 2 workshops, you might not want to join a second time. And unless you are interested, you're most welcome. But just to mention it. Good. Thank you very much, all. And well, see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much.
Bye.